Tonight, we'll be drifting through the fascinating world of Pokémon evolution, exploring the countless ways these creatures grow, transform, and adapt. Find a comfortable position, let your body relax, and allow your mind to wander as we dive into the quiet mysteries behind each transformation. From unusual methods hidden deep within the games, to the rich lore that connects evolutions to myths and nature, every fact will gently guide you further into a peaceful state of rest. There's no need to focus too hard, just let the soft rhythm of these stories carry you along. As we journey from familiar favorites to obscure and unexpected evolutionary secrets, you can simply listen, breathe, and let the calm wash over you. By the time we're done, you might just be fast asleep, dreaming of your own Pokémon adventure, surrounded by creatures evolving under starlit skies. From the earliest games to the most recent generations, Pokémon evolution has always fascinated players with its mysteries, quirks, and hidden mechanics. Take Eevee, for example, one of the most unique Pokémon in the franchise. Its unstable genetic makeup allows it to evolve into 8 different forms, each influenced by different factors like elemental stones, friendship levels, and even specific times of day. Espeon and Umbreon were introduced in Generation 2 and marked one of the first times friendship and time mechanics directly tied into evolution. Espeon, tied to the daytime, represented the bond a trainer could nurture during their waking hours, while Umbreon evolved during the night, symbolizing quiet resilience and loyalty. Later, Sylveon joined this evolutionary line in Generation 6, becoming the first Fairy-type evolution for Eevee and requiring a Pokémon Ami or Pokémon Refresh interaction alongside a Fairy-type move, showcasing how evolution began to intertwine more closely with in-game bonding systems. Eevee's adaptability is often linked to its lore as a creature with highly mutable DNA, making it a perfect symbol of the unpredictable yet rewarding evolution mechanics in Pokémon as a whole. Then, there's Magikarp, arguably the most famous weak-to-strong evolution in gaming history. At level 20, this floundering fish evolves into Gyarados, a terrifying serpent inspired by the myth of the koi fish that swims upstream and leaps over the Dragon Gate to transform into a dragon. This origin is deeply rooted in East Asian folklore and directly connects to Gyarados' design as a fierce sea serpent reminiscent of Chinese dragons. Interestingly, despite Gyarados' fierce reputation, it isn't actually a dragon-type Pokémon, but rather a water and flying type, a choice that many fans theorize was made to balance its stats in the early games. Even more surprising is that in the Pokémon Adventures manga, it's suggested that Gyarados' evolution is so violent and sudden that it causes its personality to shift drastically, turning the once docile Magikarp into a destructive force fueled by rage. Another fascinating case is Wurmple, whose evolution into either Silcoon or Cascoon is determined by an invisible internal value known as a personality value in the game's coding. Unlike branching evolutions determined by obvious player actions like stones or items, Wurmple's path to Beautifully or Dustox is entirely hidden and effectively random, making it one of the only Pokémon whose evolution outcome is unpredictable in normal gameplay. This randomness mirrors how real-world insects like caterpillars can develop into different forms based on environmental conditions, even though Wurmple's branching line is coded, rather than influenced by external elements. Many fans consider this mechanic a nod to unpredictability in nature, adding depth to an otherwise simple early-game bug Pokémon. Meanwhile, Pokémon like Inkay introduced one of the strangest evolution methods in the series. To evolve Inkay into Malamar, players have to physically hold their Nintendo 3DS upside down while leveling it up past 30. This mechanic cleverly used the handheld's gyroscope and broke away from traditional item or level up triggers, catching many players by surprise. Malamar's design, an eerie squid with hypnotic powers, plays perfectly into its evolution method, as turning your console upside down feels like embracing the unsettling and bizarre nature of its lore. In the anime, Malamar is depicted as having terrifying mind control abilities, further cementing its reputation as one of the creepiest evolutions in the franchise. Even older Pokémon gained interesting evolutionary updates in later generations. Take Magneton, for instance. Originally evolving from Magnemite at level 30, Magneton later received a new evolution in Generation 4, Magnezone. Instead of using an item or a stone, Magneton must level up in specific magnetic fields, such as Mount Coronet in Sinnoh. This method linked evolution directly to environmental storytelling, suggesting that Magnezone's transformation comes from exposure to intense magnetic energy in its surroundings. Later games shifted this mechanic to items like the Thunderstone, but the lore implication remained. Magnezone represents how Pokémon can evolve alongside technological and geological advancements in the world they inhabit. Tyrant and Amora from Generation 6 provided another unique twist by introducing evolution tied to time of day. Tyrant evolves into Tyrantrum only during the daytime, while Amora evolves into Aurorus exclusively at night. This subtle difference not only reflected their design's Tyrantrum being an aggressive, sunlit predator, and Aurorus a serene, Aurora-inspired creature of the night sky, but also tied their prehistoric roots to natural cycles. Both Pokémon are fossil revivals, blending ancient history with modern evolution mechanics, making their evolutions feel like a natural progression tied to primal instincts and environmental conditions. Then, there's the case of Farfetch'd evolving into Sirfetch'd in Pokémon Sword and Shield. This evolution required landing 3 critical hits in a single battle, a mechanic that emphasized Farfetch'd's long-standing lore as a proud and skilled fighter using its leek as a weapon. By forcing players to achieve this feat, it felt like training Farfetch'd into a disciplined warrior worthy of becoming Sirfetch'd, a knight-like Pokémon with a giant shield formed from its leek's leaves. This evolution method was both challenging and thematic, perfectly capturing the sense of mastery required to ascend into its gallant final form. Finally, one of the most charming modern examples is Milcery evolving into Alchemy. Rather than simply using an item or leveling up, players had to equip Milcery with a sweet item and spin their character in circles to initiate its evolution. Depending on the length and direction of the spin, as well as the time of day and the sweet equipped, different forms of alchemy could be obtained, resulting in over 60 potential variations. This whimsical mechanic not only tied perfectly into alchemy's dessert theme, but also added a playful and almost ritualistic quality to its evolution, turning what could have been a simple level-up event into a delightful and memorable experience. One of the most intriguing cases of evolution in the Pokémon world is Phoebus evolving into Milotic. Phoebus is widely regarded as one of the ugliest and weakest Pokémon, yet it evolves into Milotic, a creature famed for its beauty and grace. This transformation mirrors myths of creatures undergoing dramatic metamorphoses to achieve their ultimate form, much like an unremarkable caterpillar becoming a stunning butterfly. Originally, evolving Phoebus required maxing out its beauty condition through Pokeblocks or Poffins, making it one of the most complex evolution methods in early generations. This mechanic tied gameplay to contests and cosmetics, rewarding trainers who invested time in grooming their Pokémon. In later generations, this was replaced with the Prism Scale item, simplifying the process but maintaining the lore of Milotic as a Pokémon, so elegant it is said to calm anger and bring peace simply by being seen. Another fascinating line is Trapinch evolving into Vibrava, and later into Flygon. At first glance, Trapinch appears to be a grounded antlion-like creature, entirely unrelated to its later forms. Yet its evolution represents the natural metamorphosis from a larval stage into a winged insect, reflecting how many real-world creatures undergo massive transformations during their life cycle. The sharp shift from Trapinch's earthbound form to Vibrava's dragonfly-inspired design, and then finally into Flygon's mystical, desert-wandering spirit of the desert, makes this evolutionary line feel like a journey from humble beginnings to legendary status. Flygon's lore even suggests it creates mirages in the sand, further solidifying its mythical presence. Pancham's evolution into Pangoro is another memorable case, because it requires the presence of a Dark-type Pokémon in the party. This condition emphasizes the idea of influence and mentorship within the Pokémon world, as Pancham's playful and mischievous nature matures into Pangoro's intimidating and protective demeanor by learning from darker Pokémon. This concept is deeply tied to its lore, portraying Pangoro as a Pokémon that dislikes bullies and uses its strength to protect others, embodying a rough exterior but kind-hearted trope often found in storytelling. The requirement of having a dark-type Pokémon nearby makes this evolution feel social, as if the Pokémon world recognizes relationships between species as part of growth. Then there's the iconic case of Scyther evolving into Scizor. Scyther's sleek, green insectoid form gives way to the metallic armored Scizor when traded while holding a metal coat. This evolution is one of the earliest examples of incorporating trade-based evolution with an item, emphasizing the franchise's focus on connectivity between players. Lore-wise, Scizor's exoskeleton becomes so dense that it loses its ability to fly, despite retaining its wings, trading speed for raw power. Interestingly, while Scizor is made of metal, it remains a bug and steel type, suggesting its transformation is biological rather than artificial. Its body naturally adapts to a metallic composition through evolution. Ralts's evolution line is another captivating example of how evolution intertwines with personality and symbolism. Starting as the timid, sensitive Ralts, it evolves into Kirlia and then into Gardevoir or Galade depending on conditions. While Gardevoir is achieved through simple leveling, Galade requires a male Kirlia and the use of a Dawnstone, emphasizing the split between elegance and chivalry. Gardevoir's lore portrays it as fiercely protective, even willing to create black holes to defend its trainer, while Galade is depicted as a noble warrior who fights with blades formed from its arms. This dual branching captures themes of choice and destiny, showcasing evolution as a reflection of both nature and nurture. Slowpoke's evolution into Slowking provides one of the funniest and most unique explanations in the franchise. While Slowbro evolves by having a Shelder clamp onto its tail, Slowking evolves when a Shelder attaches to its head while holding a King's Rock, granting it heightened intelligence. Lore suggests this fusion allows Slowking to constantly exude a toxin that stimulates brain activity, making it capable of speech in the anime and giving it the title of a genius Pokémon. Despite its intelligence, Slowking is also famously laid back, reflecting an amusing balance between brilliance and laziness. The evolution of Applin into Flapple or Appletun is another creative branch. Applin itself is essentially a tiny worm that hides inside an apple, using it as its protective shell. Its two evolutions represent different ways of adapting to its fruit host. Flapple transforms the apple into a set of glider wings, giving it a more mischievous and active design, while Appletun grows into a large, pie-like dragon with a syrup-filled back, symbolizing a slower, more defensive lifestyle. The apple imagery ties these Pokémon to folklore about food and temptation, especially in how they mix dragon-like qualities with their sweet and edible motifs. Finally, there's Yamask evolving into Cofagrigus and Runerigus. In Unova, Yamask evolves simply by reaching level 34, becoming the eerie, coffin-like Cofagrigus, whose lore claims it was once a human turned into a Pokémon. In Galar, however, Yamask has an alternate form that evolves into Runerigus through an especially unusual method after taking 49 or more damage without fainting. It must pass under a large stone structure in the wild area. This evolution feels like a ritualistic journey, tying into the idea of ancient curses and forgotten ruins. Runerigus's design resembles cursed tablets and runic carvings, connecting its evolution to a dark history buried within the region's lore. Hanage's evolution line offers a striking blend of supernatural lore and historical inspiration. Starting as a ghostly sword possessed by a spirit, Hanage evolves into Doublade, becoming a pair of swords bound by the same haunting presence, and eventually into Aegislash, a regal blade and shield Pokémon. Aegislash's lore suggests it has the ability to determine who is fit to rule, often serving kings in ancient times as a symbol of their authority. Its evolution feels less like a biological change and more like a ritualistic ascension, cementing it as both a guardian and executioner in Pokémon history. Its ability to switch between offensive and defensive stances in battle mirrors its design as both sword and shield, making its evolution line one of the most thematically cohesive in the series. Another notable example is Gumi, which evolves into Sliggoo and later Goodra. This pseudo-legendary line begins with Gumi, a timid and weak slug-like Pokémon, often called the weakest dragon type. When it evolves into Sliggoo at level 40, it retains its slimy form, but to evolve into Goodra, Sliggoo must level up during rainy weather. This requirement ties directly to its lore. Goodra is an aquatic dragon that thrives in wet conditions, and its evolution in the rain emphasizes its comfort and connection to its natural habitat. The weather-based mechanic not only adds immersion, but also reflects how environmental conditions can drive growth, as if Goodra needs the nourishing rain to reach its final powerful form. A more peculiar evolution comes from Porygon, a Pokémon created entirely by humans. Porygon's evolution into Porygon 2 and later Porygon Z involves artificial upgrades using items like the Upgrade and Dubious Disc, both clearly referencing technology and programming. Porygon 2 was developed to work in deep space, but when exposed to the Dubious Disc, it evolves into Porygon Z, which behaves erratically due to corrupted code. This line is one of the few that directly incorporates digital tampering into evolution, creating a fascinating parallel between biological growth and technological advancement gone awry. Porygon Z's twitchy, unstable animations even reinforce the concept of a glitched or corrupted program. Frosmoth's evolutionary path from Snom is one of the more endearing modern examples. Snom, a small bug-like Pokémon with a frosty exterior, evolves into Frosmoth only when it has a high level of friendship and gains enough experience at night. This blend of affection-based evolution and time of day adds an intimate, gentle quality to its transformation. Frosmoth's design, inspired by snow fairies and moths, perfectly complements this mechanic, as if it emerges under the moonlight after forming a strong bond with its trainer. The friendship requirement emphasizes nurturing care, turning a fragile little Snom into a majestic, icy companion that symbolizes trust and patience. Doubling back to Generation 2, we see the quirky case of Tyrogue, which evolves into one of 3 different Pokémon Hitmonlee, Hitmonchan, or Hitmontop based on its stats. If Tyrogue's attack is higher than its defense, it becomes Hitmonlee. If its defense is higher, it becomes Hitmonchan, and if both are equal, it evolves into Hitmontop. This stat-driven evolution makes Tyrogue's growth feel like a result of training focus, paralleling real-world martial arts disciplines. Hitmonlee embodies speed and striking power. Hitmonchan symbolizes defensive techniques and endurance, and Hitmontop balances both to create a spinning, evasive fighter. This line directly ties gameplay mechanics, stat allocation, and training to evolution outcomes, making it deeply interactive. Shelmet and Karrablast present one of the most bizarre evolution methods in the entire franchise. Both Pokémon evolve only when traded for each other, with Shelmet becoming Excelgor and Karrablast becoming Escavalier. The in-universe explanation suggests that during the trade, Karrablast steals Shelmet's armor, transforming into the knight-like Escavalier, while Shelmet, now unarmored, becomes the swift, ninja-like Excelgor. This dual evolution not only highlights trading as a core Pokémon feature, but also weaves in a clever lore connection between the two species, symbolizing a predator-prey dynamic turned into mutual metamorphosis. Next is Clamperl, which evolves into either Huntail or Gorbis when traded holding a deep-sea tooth or deep-sea scale, respectively. This line reflects deep-sea biology and evolutionary specialization. Huntail, with its fearsome jaw and lure-tipped tail, is designed to thrive in pitch-black ocean trenches, while Gorbis is elegant and sleek, adapted to siphon fluids from its prey in calmer deep-sea regions. The contrast between the two forms predatory and elegant mirrors real-world evolutionary branches in marine life, where species diverge dramatically to fill different ecological niches. The Pokémon Toxel introduces a rare example of personality-driven evolution. At level 30, Toxel evolves into Toxtricity, but depending on its nature, it becomes either the amped form or low-key form. Amped Toxtricity, based on more energetic and bold natures, is vibrant and aggressive, while low-key Toxtricity reflects calmer, laid-back natures, sporting cooler colors and subtler poses. This mechanic ties gameplay and lore together by suggesting that a Pokémon's temperament influences its growth. It adds character depth and makes each evolution feel personal, especially for players who raise multiple Toxel to see the differences. Lastly, Galar introduced Phalanx, a Pokémon that doesn't evolve but flips the idea of evolution through design. Phalanx is actually 6 individual Pokémon acting as one cohesive unit, with a single leader directing 5 followers. While it has no further evolution, it embodies the concept of strength in numbers and cooperation. Its formation-based fighting style in the games mirrors military drills, and while it technically doesn't evolve, its design implies an evolutionary step from individuality to collective unity, blending biology with tactics in a creative way. One of the most creative examples of evolution tied to environmental storytelling is Galarian Yamisk evolving into Runerigus, unlike its Unova counterpart, which becomes Kofagrigus through leveling. This version requires Yamask to take at least 49 damage in battle without fainting, and then travel under a specific stone structure in the wild area. This ritualistic evolution feels like passing through an ancient trial, connecting Runerigus to cursed relics and forgotten history. Its body resembles a runic tablet depicting ominous figures, making the evolution seem less like biological growth and more like a transformation bound to ancient magic and lore deeply rooted in Galar. Sinestia's evolution into Polteagus is equally unusual, requiring the use of a cracked pot or chipped pot. Sinestia itself is already one of the strangest Pokémon, literally a ghost inhabiting a teacup. Adding to the mystique is the concept of authentic and phony forms of Sinestia, where only the authentic form carries a tiny stamp of authenticity on its underside, visible only with a careful in-game camera angle. Regardless of form, evolution transforms it into Polteagus, a possessed teapot whose lore claims it can serve tea brewed from its own body tea that can be both healing and dangerous if consumed. This quirky evolution ties folklore and humor together, cementing it as one of the most peculiar yet charming lines in the series. Next is Golette's evolution into Golurk, an ancient golem Pokémon powered by mysterious energy. According to lore, Golurk was created by an ancient civilization thousands of years ago to protect people and Pokémon. Its evolution feels like Activation Golette, the smaller clay automaton, grows into a towering guardian capable of flight by retracting its legs and using jets of energy. This evolution isn't framed as biological but as an awakening of dormant power, perfectly reflecting myths of ancient machines built by forgotten cultures that spring to life to fulfill their duty. Another fascinating example is Spritzy's evolution into Aromatisse, which showcases trade evolution through a unique twist. Spritzy evolves when traded while holding a sachet, an item tied to perfume and fragrance. Aromatisse is themed around perfume dancers and carnival aesthetics, embodying the glamorous side of the fairy type. Its lore suggests it can produce scents ranging from sweet and soothing to downright unpleasant, emphasizing how evolution not only changes appearance and strength, but also enhances sensory traits in ways that tie directly into its thematic identity. Similarly, Swirlix evolves into Slurpuff when traded while holding a whipped dream. This candy-themed Pokémon transforms into what resembles a living cupcake, with heightened senses that allow it to distinguish even the faintest scents. It's said that Slurpuff's sense of smell rivals a top-tier tracking dog, an amusing contrast to its sugary, harmless appearance. The culinary imagery in both Spritzy and Swirlix's evolutions ties to Kalos's heavy inspiration from French culture, blending Pokémon design with regional flavor in a playful and fitting way. Dreepy's line presents a fascinating pseudo-legendary journey rooted in ghostly lore. Dreepy is described as the lingering spirit of a prehistoric aquatic Pokémon that wanders battlefields, lonely and weak in its unevolved state. As it evolves into Dracloak and finally Dragapult, it gains immense power, culminating in its unique lore-driven battle behavior. Dragapult launches Dreepy from its head, like living missiles in combat. This evolution line combines ancient extinction themes with spectral energy, portraying Pokémon evolution almost as a bridge between past and present, where a ghost regains physical strength and draconic might over generations. Finally, Fletchling's line is a great example of how common early route Pokémon can develop into powerful forms. Starting as a simple bird, it evolves into Fletchinder, and then into Talonflame, gaining fire typing along the way. Talonflame's fiery design and impressive speed reflect falconry traditions, with its lore stating it used to serve trainers who practiced hunting with birds. The transition from a basic chirping sparrow-like creature to a majestic falcon engulfed in flames captures the satisfying progression that makes Pokémon evolution so rewarding to witness and participate in. Zorua and its evolution into Zoroark offer one of the most iconic examples of deceptive Pokémon growth. Both Pokémon are based on trickster foxes and kitsune legends, and their evolution focuses on refining their illusion abilities. While Zorua uses illusion to protect itself and play tricks harmlessly, Zoroark becomes a master illusionist capable of manipulating entire landscapes to confuse enemies. In the Pokémon Black and White movies, Zoroark creates realistic illusions of cities and environments, showcasing how its evolution represents mastery over deception and psychological warfare. This line emphasizes an evolution not just in strength, but in complexity and cunning. Gligar's evolution into Gliscor is another standout example, requiring a razor fang and nighttime conditions. This mechanic ties perfectly into its lore, as Gliscor is a nocturnal predator resembling a vampire bat crossed with a scorpion. Its evolution under the cover of darkness mirrors its hunting behavior, making its transformation feel authentic and natural. Gliscor's lore even suggests it silently glides down from trees to ambush prey, cementing it as an evolution that thrives in stealth and predatory prowess. Salandit's evolution into Salazzle showcases one of the rare gender-specific evolutions in Pokémon. Only female Salandit can evolve into Salazzle, while males remain unevolved regardless of level. This quirk references certain real-world reptiles, like some lizard species where females dominate social hierarchies. Salazzle's design, combined with this restriction, ties directly to its lore of leading harems of male Salandit. Its evolution not only increases its strength, but fully embraces its role as a dominant, toxic leader, turning gameplay mechanics into a direct reflection of in-universe biology and behavior. Phantump's evolution into Trevenant introduces a spooky example deeply tied to folklore. Phantump itself is said to be the spirit of a child who became lost in a forest and possessed a tree stump. Upon evolving into Trevenant, it becomes a spectral tree guardian, fiercely protecting forests and maintaining balance in nature. Trevenant's ability to communicate with other trees is directly tied to its lore, adding a hauntingly beautiful element where evolution represents a shift from loneliness to purpose as a protector of its wooded home. Carvanha, evolving into Sharpedo, represents a simple but powerful thematic leap. Carvanha's design reflects a piranhasmal but aggressive in groups, while Sharpedo embodies the concept of a lone predator, a torpedo-like shark known for attacking anything in its path. Its evolution feels like an apex predator rising from a swarm, transitioning from dependency on numbers to raw individual dominance. Sharpedo's jet-like speed in the water reflects how evolution can elevate a basic, feral concept into something fierce and terrifyingly efficient. Meanwhile, Skrelp's evolution into Dragalge offers a fantastic example of marine mimicry influencing Pokémon design. Skrelp disguises itself as rotting seaweed to ambush prey, while Dragalge evolves into a venomous sea dragon modeled after the leafy sea dragon, a real-world relative of seahorses. Dragalge's lore even states it can melt through the hulls of ships with its corrosive toxins, cementing its terrifying reputation. This evolution showcases how real-world biology and fantasy combine seamlessly in Pokémon design, grounding its mythical appearance in actual marine camouflage behavior. Finally, there's Duskull evolving into Dusclops and eventually Dusknoir, an evolution line steeped in ghostly dread. Duskull is described as a spirit that wanders graveyards, while Dusclops traps objects and living beings inside its hollow body. Upon reaching Dusknoir, the Pokédex notes it acts as a psychopomp escorting lost spirits to the afterlife under instructions from the mysterious spirit world. This line presents evolution as a deepening connection to supernatural forces, transforming a wandering ghost into a fearsome harbinger of the beyond. Rowlet's line offers one of the most elegant evolutions in recent memory. Beginning as a round, owl-like grass and flying type, Rowlet evolves into Dartrix, a refined but somewhat vain intermediate stage, before becoming Decidueye Silent, hooded archer, inspired by ghostly forest spirits and historical archers. In its Hisuian form, Decidueye takes on a grass and fighting typing, representing the adaptation of its lineage to different climates over centuries. Its evolution perfectly balances charm and power, starting as a small, curious bird and culminating in a stealthy hunter whose arrows fly silently through the trees, merging elegance with deadly precision. Cubchoo's evolution into Beartic shows a straightforward but effective predator shift. Cubchoo is portrayed as clumsy and constantly dripping mucus, reflecting its young, vulnerable state. Upon evolving, it transforms into Beartic, a massive polar bear Pokémon capable of freezing seas with its breath. The transformation feels like watching a cub grow into a fully mature apex predator, emphasizing the natural growth of Arctic animals adapting to harsh, frozen environments. Electric's evolution into Manectric demonstrates how speed and energy define certain evolutionary lines. Electrike, a jittery and excitable Pokémon, grows into Manectric, a sleek, lightning-fast predator whose mane sparks violently when it runs. Manectric's lore suggests it can unleash bursts of electricity simply by sprinting, tying its evolution directly to kinetic energy and power accumulation. This line perfectly embodies how Pokémon evolution can enhance simple concepts like a speedy electric canine into something dynamic and memorable. Petalil's evolution into Lilligant also showcases how regional variations enrich evolution lore. The standard Lilligant is an elegant grass type, resembling a blooming flower dancer, while its Hisuian variant trades grace for martial artistry, gaining a grass and fighting typing. This change reflects the harsher environment of Hisui, showing how Pokémon evolve differently across regions based on their surroundings, adapting their forms, abilities, and even temperaments over generations. Another aquatic example is Remoraid, evolving into Octillery. Despite the odd leap from a fish resembling a small gun to an octopus with cannon-like qualities, their connection comes from early design concepts that tied their evolution to weaponry themes, Remoraid as a gun and Octillery as a tank. Over time, the weapon references became subtler, but the evolutionary jump remains a playful nod to dramatic transformations in nature, such as larval fish developing into entirely different adult forms. Cottony evolving into Whimsicott demonstrates how evolution can shift personality dramatically. Cottony is mischievous, floating on the wind to prank travelers, while Whimsicott becomes a whimsical, almost fairy-like creature capable of slipping through the smallest cracks in houses to cause playful chaos. Its grass and fairy typing in later generations suits its reputation as a trickster sprite, tying evolution to folklore and playful mythology. Finally, Aaron's line from Aaron to Lyran to Agron showcases a clear progression of armored might. Aaron begins as a small, steel-plated creature feeding on iron ore, but its evolution turns it into the massive, dinosaur-like Agron, whose armor is said to be harder than steel. Agron is described as fiercely territorial, defending entire mountains by itself, and its evolution feels like the ultimate representation of endurance and raw strength forged over time. Mareep's evolution into Flaffy and then Ampharos is one of the most iconic electric-type journeys, and it's full of both subtle and surprising details. Mareep begins as a woolly sheep Pokémon, literally storing electricity in its fluffy coat. Its wool functions almost like static insulation, and in the early Pokédex entries, it's stated that when Mareep builds up too much charge, its fleece shines with static light and can even shock others. As it evolves into Flaffy, something curious happens: the amount of wool it has actually decreases. This seems counterintuitive until you realize that Flaffy's body becomes more efficient at controlling its electricity, needing less insulation and relying more on its internal circuits, so to speak. The pink skin and more upright posture also begin to shift it away from a standard sheep design towards something a bit more humanoid. Then comes Ampharosa, complete transformation. All of the wool is gone, replaced by a smooth, bipedal body with an almost dinosaur-like silhouette. Its tail ends in a glowing orb, said to shine so brightly it can be seen from space. According to lore, Ampharos used to be used in ancient times as a beacon to guide lost travelers or even signal from lighthouses. It's a clear metaphor for growth. Mareep begins with stored, uncontrolled potential, but by the time it reaches Ampharos, it has become a calm, luminous force shedding its fluff and fully mastering its power. In Pokémon Crystal, The Olivine City Lighthouse features an Ampharos named Amphi, who is sick until you cure it with a medicine from Cianwood City making Ampharos, one of the rare Pokémon to feature directly in a story-based plot moment. Ampharos also received a Mega Evolution, turning its sleek form into one with flowing white hair and adding a dragon typing, which many fans theorize ties into its origins as a more ancient, dragon-like species that gradually lost its scales for fleece. Now consider Snom evolving into Frosmoth. While it may seem like a straightforward bug and ice-type evolution, the storytelling here is subtle and beautiful. Snom is described as a timid larva that clings to cold surfaces to avoid overheating. Its evolution requires two specific things: high friendship and nighttime in evolution that speaks of vulnerability, comfort, and transformation in the quietest hours of the day. Only by building trust and waiting until darkness does it emerge into its final form. Frosmoth is a majestic ice moth whose wings sparkle like fresh snow, and according to lore, it spreads sheets of ice to protect its home environment. What's poetic is how this reflects real moth evolution. Most moths emerge at night, their cocoons protecting them through development. In gameplay, you need to form a strong bond with Snom, feeding it berries, winning battles together, or simply walking by its side. Then, in the quiet of night, it becomes something breathtaking. It's not a battle-hardened evolution, but one born from gentleness, time, and love. Even its name, Frosmoth, conjures up serene imagery of frost patterns forming on windows while the world sleeps. This calm, slow, and beautiful transition makes the line feel like a metaphor for personal growth, delicate and quiet, but powerful in its own way. Let's look at Bagon next, the little dragon type with one of the most emotionally satisfying evolution arcs in the entire Pokémon franchise. Bagon is obsessed with flying. Its Pokédex entries describe it hurling itself off cliffs in a desperate attempt to soar through the sky. It's portrayed as reckless and determined, often injuring itself in its quest. As a childlike creature full of ambition, Bagon reflects dreams that feel far out of reach. When it evolves into Shelgon, it becomes something completely different. A solid, motionless dome. At first, this feels like a regression. The flying dreamer is now trapped inside a shell, unable to move freely. But Shelgon's lore suggests it's forming wings and internal structures, preparing for its final transformation. It's a period of dormancy, like a caterpillar in a chrysalis, and still, but profoundly active on the inside. Then, finally, it evolves into Salamence, gaining massive wings and fulfilling the dream it never let go of. Salamence is not just a dragon and flying type, it's the embodiment of realized potential. Its Pokédex says that Salamence flies simply out of sheer joy, celebrating its new form. The years of frustration, failure, and restraint all pay off in a moment of pure freedom. In many ways, this evolution mirrors real life's journey toward goals that seem impossible at first, and it's why the Bagon line resonates so deeply with fans who see a part of themselves in that story. Now let's shift to Shuppet and its evolution into Banetteon. Of the darker stories in Pokémon lore, Shuppet feeds on negative emotions. It's drawn to jealousy, resentment, and grudges, and it grows stronger by absorbing them. When it evolves into Banette, the tale takes a sinister turn. Banette is said to have once been an abandoned plush doll, thrown away by a child. Its spirit grew so full of hatred and sorrow that it came to life, stitching its mouth shut to contain its power and seeking revenge on the one who cast it aside. This is one of the few Pokémon whose entire identity is based on trauma and rage. Its evolution doesn't represent strength in the usual sense, an evolution of grief. Banette doesn't look like a powerful fighter. It looks like a haunted object, cursed and walking. And yet, in battle, it channels this dark energy into ghost-type attacks that seem to release everything it has bottled up. This evolution line blurs the line between organic and supernatural, asking what happens when feelings are so strong they take form and refuse to fade. Gothita, Gothorita, and Gothitelle form a mysterious trio that traces a Pokemon's growth from cosmic curiosity to psychic transcendence. Gothita is drawn to starlight, often staring at the sky in silence. As it evolves into Gothorita, it gains the ability to manipulate others using hypnosis and telekinesis, said to shape its surroundings to its liking, almost like it's learning how to bend reality. Then, as Gothitelle, it fully realizes its psychic potential. According to Pokédex entries, it can see the future with perfect clarity, even knowing when its own trainer will die. This eerie insight gives Gothitelle an almost oracle-like presence. It's not just strong, it's aware. Unlike many Pokémon who evolve to become faster or tougher, Gothitelle's evolution is about depth, deeper perception, deeper understanding, deeper calm. It doesn't need to shout or threaten, it simply watches, knowing the outcome before anyone else does. And then we come to Diggersby, the evolution of Bunnelby. At first glance, it seems like a simple normal type with comically oversized ears, but those ears become tools. When Bunnelby evolves, its ears develop into giant limbs, used to dig tunnels, lift boulders, and even perform construction work. Diggersby's lore suggests it can move more earth in a single day than a team of excavators. What's clever about this evolution is how it flips expectations. Bunnelby starts off cute and harmless, but its evolution makes it gritty, tough, and useful. Its design leans into working-class imagery, muddy fur, muscular arms, a relaxed but strong posture. Diggersby is not flashy, but it's capable. Its evolution represents maturity in a very grounded way, becoming strong not to fight, but to contribute, to build, and to endure. Inkay's evolution into Malamar stands out as one of the most unconventional evolution mechanics in Pokémon history. Inkay begins as a small, inverted, squid-like creature with an adorable yet peculiar design, and its method of evolving perfectly matches its unsettling nature. In order to evolve Inkay into Malamar, players must level it up past 30 while holding their Nintendo 3DS, later switch completely upside down. The moment it evolves, its body flips orientation, and suddenly you have Malamar, a menacing squid Pokémon known for its hypnotic abilities. This evolution isn't just a quirky gimmick, it's a clever physical metaphor. By literally flipping your console upside down, you mimic the disorienting, topsy-turvy world Malamar embodies. Its lore adds an even darker twist, describing Malamar as one of the most sinister Pokémon, capable of using powerful hypnotic waves to bend humans and Pokémon alike to its will. The games even include implications of Malamar influencing world events in secret, portraying it as a manipulative force lurking in the shadows. The unique evolution method feels like an initiation ritual, inviting the player into Malamar's eerie, inverted worldview. Next, Snorunt's split evolution into Glalie or Frostlass delivers two very different interpretations of icy folklore. Glalie is a floating, jagged head of frozen rock, said to instantly freeze its prey with a glare and then devour it whole. Its design draws inspiration from icy Oni masks or demonic faces found in northern cultures, fitting its reputation as a terrifying predator. Meanwhile, Frostlass is only accessible if the Snorunt is female and exposed to a Dawnstone, creating a haunting ghost and ice-type Pokémon. Frostlass's Pokédex entries describe it as the spirit of a woman who became lost in the snowy mountains and perished, only to return possessing an icicle-like body. It freezes humans, and keeps them as decorations in its den, blurring the line between myth and horror. This dual-path evolution perfectly embodies Pokemon's ability to weave folklore and regional culture into its designs, offering two very different but equally evocative takes on the same base Pokemon. Rufflet's evolution into Braviary highlights themes of courage and perseverance. Rufflet is a small, plucky bird Pokemon described as brash and unafraid of larger foes, attacking without hesitation even if it's outmatched. It embodies youthful bravado, eager, reckless, and fearless to a fault. As it grows and trains, it evolves into Braviary, an imposing eagle Pokemon whose lore celebrates it as a symbol of bravery and valor. Braviary is said to fight for its friends and trainer without hesitation, representing loyalty and strength born from that initial fearlessness. Its Hisuian form takes this even further, depicting Braviary as a psychic and flying type that can use psychic waves in midair, its screech echoing across snowy cliffs as it watches over its territory. The evolution feels like the story of a reckless youth maturing into a steadfast guardian, and its design-large wings, sharp talons, and noble stature resonates it as one of the most majestic flying types in the series. In contrast, Vullaby evolving into Mandibuzz portrays the darker side of survival. Vullaby starts off wearing a cracked skull as a diaper, hinting at its scavenger lifestyle from an early age. It relies heavily on its protective skull covering until it evolves into Mandibuzz, a vulture-like Pokemon known for circling wastelands and preying on what remains. Mandibuzz's lore reinforces its opportunistic nature, noting how it crafts armor out of bones and decorates itself with trophies from its scavenged prey. This evolution provides a fascinating counterpoint to Rufflet's heroic path, where Braviary represents strength through courage. Mandibuzz represents strength through cunning and resourcefulness. Together, these two lines mirror natural ecosystems where noble predators and opportunistic scavengers coexist, each evolved perfectly for their respective roles. Now, let's examine Larvesta's dramatic evolution into Volcarona. Larvesta is a fiery larva Pokemon with blazing horns, described as living near volcanoes where it absorbs intense heat to sustain itself. Unlike most Pokemon, Larvesta evolves at level 59, making it one of the latest level-based evolutions in the entire series. This long wait heightens the payoff when it finally becomes Volcarona, the Sun Pokemon. Volcarona's lore is breathtaking. It's said to have saved ancient civilizations during times of cold and darkness, its fiery wings replacing the warmth of the sun. Its design resembles a divine moth with ember-like patterns glowing on its wings, evoking the imagery of a phoenix rising from ashes. Volcarona's status as a pseudo-legendary-like Pokemon reflects its mythic role, making its evolution feel less like ordinary growth and more like ascension into divinity. Its place in Pokémon Black and White even supports this mythos, as it resides deep within a hidden temple-like structure, reinforcing its near-sacred status. Tynamo's evolution line into Electric and then Electros offers another fascinating example of tying design and lore directly to real-world biology. Tynamo is inspired by electric eels and knifefish, capable of producing electric shocks despite its small size. As it evolves into Electric, its serpentine body elongates, and its facial fins become more pronounced, indicating a deepening adaptation to underwater hunting. Finally, Electros, the fully evolved form, resembles a monstrous deep-sea predator, its maw gaping with rows of sharp teeth. What's most notable about Electros is its levitate ability, which removes its only weakness to ground-type moves, making it one of the rare Pokemon with no direct type weaknesses in battle. Thematically, It feels like the ultimate ambush predator, gliding silently through deep waters before striking. Its lore even describes it dragging prey into the ocean depths, making it one of the more fearsome aquatic Pokémon evolutions despite its electric typing. Finally, Riolu evolving into Lucario remains one of the most beloved evolution stories in Pokémon history. Riolu is a playful, loyal Pokémon whose evolution depends on high friendship during the daytime. This mechanic reinforces its deep bond with its trainer, requiring mutual trust and time spent together. When it evolves, it becomes Lucario, a fighting and steel-type Pokémon famed for its mastery of aura energy, allowing it to sense emotions and even read minds. Lucario's Pokédex describes it as noble and disciplined, a Pokémon that trains constantly to hone its martial skills and aura control. Its evolution is often interpreted as symbolic of a martial arts student reaching enlightenment under a mentor's guidance, blending strength, discipline, and empathy. In the anime and movies, Lucario is portrayed almost as a heroic figure, cementing its reputation as one of the most iconic evolutions in the franchise. One of the most captivating evolution lines is Litwick evolving into Lampent and then Chandelure. Litwick is a small, seemingly harmless candle Pokémon, whose flame is said to absorb the life energy of those around it, guiding people toward the afterlife, while disguising itself as a friendly light. Its evolution into Lampent deepens this spectral connection. Lampent is described as lurking near hospitals and people's homes, waiting for spirits to pass on so it can collect them. It's eerie but elegant, blending supernatural folklore with a melancholy beauty. Finally, Chandelure emerges as a ghost and fire-type Chandelier Pokémon whose flames don't burn the body but rather consume the soul. According to lore, anyone hypnotized by its flickering flames loses their spirit entirely. While unsettling, its design is strikingly beautiful, merging Gothic architecture with haunting elegance. This evolution line perfectly encapsulates Pokémon's ability to weave dark myths into stunning designs that remain oddly serene when viewed through the lens of quiet nighttime storytelling. Chandelure's competitive role has also cemented it as a favorite. Its high special attack, combined with its ghost typing, make it feel powerful but mysterious, perfectly fitting for a Pokémon tied to restless spirits. Watching Litwick's tiny flame evolve into a grand, spectral chandelier reflects a slow, burn-small beginnings, growing into dazzling, almost regal power. This line feels less like standard biological evolution and more like a spiritual metamorphosis, making it unforgettable in Pokémon history. Another line worth exploring is Trapinch evolving into Vibrava, and then Flygon, which showcases one of the most dramatic transformations in Pokémon. Trapinch is a grounded antlion-inspired Pokémon that dwells in desert pits, snapping its massive jaws shut on anything unlucky enough to fall in. Its Pokédex entries even note how it's patient to the point of immobility, sitting perfectly still for days. Then, upon evolving into Vibrava, it undergoes an insect-like metamorphosis, sprouting wings and becoming a dragon and ground type. This stage reflects its transitional nature, and its wing beats emit ultrasonic vibrations strong enough to cause headaches, hinting at its coming power. Finally, Flygon emerges, an elegant dragonfly-like Pokémon known as the Spirit of the Desert. Its lore describes it as creating sandstorms with its wings, hiding within them to stay unseen, its melodic hum said to lull travelers into an almost dreamlike state. Flygon represents evolution as freedom, breaking from the stillness of its early life into something fast, graceful, and mythical. From patient predator to desert guardian, this line captures the feeling of watching persistence and transformation pay off in the most spectacular way. Then there's Pumpkaboo evolving into Gourgeist, a seasonal-themed ghost and grass-type Pokémon that changes size depending on where it's caught. Pumpkaboo's design is playful and Halloween-inspired, resembling a jack-o'-lantern animated by a restless spirit. Its evolution into Gurgeist retains this festive design, but introduces eerie lore. It sings in haunting voices while approaching people, ensnaring them in its hair, like tendrils to carry them off. Interestingly, Gourgeist's size impacts not only its stats, but its personality. Smaller Gourgeist are mischievous and playful, while larger ones are slower and more menacing. This size-based mechanic is unique to Pumpkaboo and Gourgeist, tying its evolution to the idea of seasonal harvests and shifting forms of celebration. Their playful yet ghostly nature adds a whimsical charm that's also subtly creepy, making them stand out as one of the few evolution lines that combines holiday joy and eerie legends seamlessly. Another fascinating evolution line is Bergmite evolving into Avalugg. Bergmite is a small, iceberg-like Pokémon that clings to frozen surfaces, hiding among drifting ice to avoid predators. It embodies survival in the harshest environments, moving slowly and relying on camouflage rather than aggression. Upon evolving, it becomes Avalugg, a massive glacier-like Pokémon whose flat back resembles a frozen battlefield. Its Pokédex describes it as strong enough to carry smaller Pokémon across its icy back as though it were a living island. This evolution showcases how Pokémon often adapt to their environments, not just for battle, but for survival and even symbiosis with others. The Hisuian form of Avalugg further enhances this idea by giving it a rockier, more ancient appearance, tying it closer to the rugged terrains of the Hisui region. Its ground and ice typing reflects both its weight and its environment, embodying the evolution of a creature shaped by centuries of unrelenting cold. Avalugg's evolution from a tiny, harmless chunk of ice into a moving glacier paints a clear picture of how Pokémon evolution often mirrors environmental dominance, with Bergmite surviving in icy niches until its final stage makes it an apex force of the tundra. Another line rich in lore is Phanpy evolving into Donphan. Phanpy is adorable and playful, often depicted splashing itself with water and rolling around in mud. It represents innocence and curiosity, a small elephant-like creature bound to its herd. When it evolves into Donphan, however, it becomes a rugged, armored powerhouse. Donphan's lore focuses on its rolling attacks, which it uses to flatten obstacles and even vehicles. This evolution reflects not just size increase, but behavioral changes tied to adulthood. Phanpy's playfulness matures into Donphan's strength and reliability, embodying how Pokémon often grow from juvenile innocence into formidable protectors. Finally, Golett evolving into Golurk adds a blend of mythology and engineering. Golett is a small clay golem powered by an internal energy core, with lore suggesting it was created by an ancient civilization to protect humans. When it evolves into Golurk, it becomes a towering automaton that can even fly by retracting its legs and using jet-like propulsion from its body. This evolution blurs the line between organic and artificial life, with Golurk acting as a relic of forgotten technology that persists far beyond its creators. Its existence hints at deeper history within the Pokémon world, suggesting lost eras of advanced knowledge. Golurk's silent, stoic presence reinforces the sense of mystery that makes its evolution so compelling, an ancient guardian awakening to fulfill its endless duty. The evolution of Skorupi into Drapion offers a fascinating glimpse into naturalistic design. Skorupi begins as a small, bug-like scorpion Pokémon with a poison and bug typing, living in sandy or marshy areas where it uses ambush tactics to survive. As it evolves into Drapion, however, its typing changes to poison and dark, symbolizing its shift from a grounded insectoid to a more predatory, armored beast. Drapion is described as having a body so tough that it resists nearly any attack, and its lore emphasizes its cruel fighting style. It doesn't just defeat enemies, it crushes them relentlessly. This evolution line illustrates the concept of hyper-specialization. Skorupi survives on stealth and venom, but Drapion dominates through sheer brute force and intimidation. Next, let's explore Helioptile evolving into Heliolisk. Helioptile is based on frilled lizards, using its neck frills to absorb sunlight and generate electricity. Its lore even notes that it can power an entire house simply by basking in the sun all day, tying it closely to solar energy. When it evolves into Heliolisk with the use of a sunstone, it becomes faster, sleeker, and capable of producing massive bursts of electrical energy. This evolution reflects how certain Pokémon adapt by harnessing their environments, in this case, thriving on renewable energy sources. Heliolisk's design bridges real-world biology with futuristic potential, embodying a Pokémon evolution that feels almost scientifically plausible. Finally, let's look at Pawniard evolving into Bisharp, and later Kingambit in Generation 9. Pawniard is a small blade-covered Pokémon that hunts in packs, striking down prey with ruthless efficiency. When it evolves into Bisharp, it becomes a commanding figure, leading its Pawniard followers like a battlefield general. Bisharp's evolution emphasizes hierarchy and discipline, tying into its dark and steel typing. Then, in Scarlet and Violet, Bisharp received a new evolution, Kingambit. To evolve, Bisharp must defeat 3 other Bisharp that are leading their own Pawniard packs, symbolizing dominance through combat and leadership. Kingambit's throne-like stance and imposing figure cemented as a monarch of blades, a perfect thematic culmination of its line. This evolution chain uniquely incorporates social dynamics into gameplay, merging design, lore, and mechanics flawlessly. As we reflect on these countless examples of evolution, it becomes clear that Pokémon evolution isn't just a mechanicid storytelling woven into design. Each transformation carries meaning. Mareep shedding its wool to shine as Ampharos, Bagon striving for wings until it soars as Salamence, or Riolu maturing into Lucario through bonds of trust. These evolutions mirror growth, adaptation, and even mythology, blending natural inspirations with fantastical lore in ways that feel alive and resonant. Even the quirkiest methods like flipping your console upside down for Inkay, or spinning in circles to evolve Milcery invite players to participate in those stories. These mechanics create personal memories. The first time you watched Magikarp transform into Gyarados, or when your timid Snom finally blossomed into Frostmoth. They're small moments that become unforgettable because they feel earned, connecting trainer and Pokémon in quiet, rewarding ways. Pokémon evolution also mirrors our own journeys. We see ourselves in Bagon's persistence, in Gumi braving the rain to become Gudra, in Tyrogue's growth shaped by training and focus. They remind us that change often takes time, trust, and perseverance, and that even the weakest beginnings can lead to extraordinary outcomes. As you settle deeper into this calm state, imagine yourself walking through a tranquil Pokémon world at dusk. The air is still and warm, the sky glowing in soft shades of pink and gold. Off in the distance, you see Pokémon in their natural habitats Rockruff playing as Lycanroc watches over them, a group of Snom clinging to a snowy branch while a Frostmoth hovers nearby, wings glittering under moonlight. The quiet hum of the evening fills your ears as these creatures evolve, not in a rush, but gently, naturally, as if it were the most peaceful thing in the world. Their transformations are slow and beautiful, each one unique, and in this serene moment, you feel yourself drifting alongside them. Just as they grow and adapt, you too can rest, letting go of worries, trusting in the steady rhythm of change. The world becomes softer, quieter, and before long you find yourself surrounded by an endless calm ready to sink into sleep as these stories fade into dreams, dreams of evolution, of growth, and of peaceful skies lit by the glow of an Amphiros's tail in the distance.